Where does your physique sit on the attractiveness scale? So we've whipped up this pretty easy to understand graph based on real world data and statistics, and it's broken down into 4 different categories: height, body fat percentage, FFMI, and shoulder to waist ratio, or SWR. Now I can already see the hate comments flying in, all the people coping. I'm not saying like there's anything you can even do about some of these variables. Yes, this is a very black pill way to look at it, nihilistic if you want to call it that. But I just thought it would be honestly interesting to actually put the statistics onto a visual graph where we can work out some actually goals and areas that you might want to hit if you want to optimize your physique for attractiveness. So we understand that all 4 of these factors is not everything that determines an attractive physique. There's things like how tanned you are. We're not even including face, which is honestly most of it, but these are the main 4 factors we really want to look at. Once again, some of these are completely out of your control, but we're not gonna not include them because of that. We're here to provide you the facts, the real world data, and the reality of the world. We're never gonna bring our own bias into this or give you any tainted perspectives based on our own worldviews. It's all real world stuff. Yeah, if you're not mature enough to like not let this stuff offend you, I urge you to click off the video because you're gonna write some stupid little comment down below. So let's get started. So first of all, we have to look at height. Unfortunately, guys, we have to look at height because height determines how your physique looks on you. It determines the proportions of your physique, how the muscles look on your physique. And to be honest, if we're not looking at muscle at all, height's honestly one of the main things about your physique that women look for rather than actual size. And it's almost become a trend these days for women to go for taller guys. But let's look at the real world data. So the studies show time and time again that you can see at 5'3", man, as a guy, if you are actually 5'3", it's kind of over for you, man, in terms of real life dating. You will always be seen as like a joke, as a kid. If you even look at Ronaldo here, which I believe is a streamer, this clip is absolutely brutal. This grown-up adult is live streaming, broadcasting live at this event, and this female is treating him like he is an absolute joke, treating him as if he's a kid. And
hi! Ron! Hi, Ron! How you doing? You having a good time?
Okay, get the f out of here.
Right.
This is an understandable crash out, man. You cannot treat any grown-up individual like this. So from 5'3" to 5'5", and even 5'6", it's gonna be pretty difficult, man, and your height is definitely gonna limit you in terms of your dating opportunities. At 5'7" to 5'8", I'd say this is where the door sort of opens. If you've maxed out like every other statistic and you're 5'7", and you're 5'8", you can still have a pretty good time. I have mates that are 5'7", and you know, they do just fine. Because if the face card's on point, if you've got a good physique, it's lean, it's dialed in, you've got some charisma, you've got social skills, you can make it work. So we see from 5'7" to 5'9", there's a pretty significant jump. But then you see from 5'9" to 5'11", there's even more of a significant jump. To be honest, man, I'm gonna keep it 100%. You are very invisible, especially in the eyes of women, if you are beneath like 5'10", to be honest. Except for very short women, it's almost like a threshold. It's almost like as soon as you hit 5'10", 5'11", it's like you are now visible to a lot of women. This is not taking into account face card, fame, status, or anything, because I can already see the stupid comments. Oh, well, what about this celebrity or this celebrity? Shut the fuck up, okay? We are singling out height and assuming the face card is the exact same. Obviously, if you have an elite 9 out of 10 face card of 5'7", they're probably gonna look past your height. Height's really only gonna get you in the door most of the times. Now, studies say that 6 foot is the ideal height and 6'1" is about the same and then it tapers off from there. I don't think that's true. I think that's old data. I don't think that's up to date. I think nowadays, 6'2", 6'3" is the peak. Like, to put in perspective, I am 6 foot and I've never felt shorter at any point in my life. Nelson here is 6'4" and the rest of my friends are like 6'2". And I can confirm that being 6 foot is not as good as being taller than that. But we can see here from 6'5" onwards, it really does taper off and you really do go into that niche category of attraction where there's girls that like singly go for taller guys or taller women will go for these guys. And actually it becomes almost a failure when I found this myself, is that I'd often have to approach first almost all the time because it's actually intimidating being that tall. So yeah, that's height. We had to include it. I know this isn't something you can control, and you shouldn't focus on the uncontrollables, but it has to be accounted for here. Next, we have body fat percentage. Now, despite what a lot of people think, lower is not always better. It does get to a point where you almost look a bit slimy, you look like a lizard, like to that bodybuilding zone. As you can see here, 5% to 7.5%, like stage ready, stage lean, you actually lose a few points of attractiveness. And that's just because you almost kind of look gross. You'll hear women say, oh, it looks gross, you're too veiny, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, naturally, you also have to lose muscle mass to get this lean if you're not injecting PEDs. At the end of the day, women are looking for health markers. And if you got to 5%, that's not really healthy, man. I don't care who you are or what genetics you have. Getting to 5% is going to hinder your health. Therefore, it will be unattractive. But we see a significant jump from 5% all the way to 10%, which is peak. 10%, I can confirm, is the ideal body fat percentage. If you can maintain 10, 11% body fat, that is ideal, and that is peak body fat percentage. It's around this zone where your six packs are like dug out at the beach in natural lighting, you know, not posing in gym lighting. Myself and all of my friends experienced the same thing. When we got to about 10% body fat, we saw a massive increase in attraction. And I thought the more muscle I had, the more attraction that I'd get. But it was actually the contrary. As soon as I got like a bit smaller and lean is when I really started noticing it. We also have to mention at this zone, your face is the most lean. Your face is the most attractive and dialed in. As soon as you get past about 12.5, 13% body fat, there is a steep drop off because the fat you hold after this starts to go to your face. It starts to go around your midsection, lower back, and it's a pretty steep decline from here. I know a lot of guys are getting really angry right now. It's like, oh, she said she likes a dad bod. You forgot the first rule, and the first rule is that you don't listen to what women say because they will lead you astray, okay? Women do not like dad bods, majority. There are some small exceptions that really do like that fluffed up, bulky look, but even then they're calling this a dad bod, so you know what they really mean. Yeah, I call this here the purgatory. This is like the natty purgatory. Most people are stuck around like the 15, 16% body fat range. Anything back from 15% usually requires like an actual strict diet and actually having to put some thought into it. So we can see from 17.5% body fat and onwards all the way to 25, 30%, fucking even 40%. You can just see like a steady, slow decrease. And that's because once you really get past like 20%, honestly, the definition's gone, the attraction's gone, the appeal is gone, the health markers are gone. Just forget about even getting laid at this point. Now let's get on to FFMI. So this is your fat-free mass index. This is like the number that is the best indicator for how big you are, accounting for, you know, body fat percentage and your height. So for reference, 18 is before gym, or like maybe like you're only 6 months into the gym. 21 is good. That's like 2, 3 years, 4 years natural lifting. 23 is like maximum natural potential. Maybe with extremely good genetics, you could get to 24. Anything past 24 usually requires PEDs. Yeah, so the really good news is peak attraction is usually about 23, honestly. And anything like above that is usually coming from gym chicks that are kind of skewing the statistics, but any normal females is about 23, man. And it's good news because you can achieve that physique naturally. And this is just the honest truth. This is coming from two guys who have a fitness channel and who are obsessed with the gym. And we have to come here and admit that, yeah, and just a nice natural physique is the most attractive. Like getting steroidy big, getting really big does have diminishing returns. And you can actually see being small or not being that jacked really isn't a huge problem. You can still have a 5 in attractiveness while being only 18, 19 FFMI. I mean, you've seen chicks rave on about these celebrities like Jacob Elordi, Timothy Chalamet, whatever his name is. They're like scrawny, like Justin Bieber, even think of that. If your face card's dialed in, you don't necessarily need to be jacked. You just need to be nice and lean and show good health markers. But without a doubt, putting on some mass will always increase your attractiveness. It doesn't matter who you are, unless you are literally 5'3" and 5'5", where it's just seen as a cope and it's just seen like you're overcompensating. Adding muscle will only increase your attractiveness massively, especially because it's so rare nowadays. All right, so let's get into shoulder to waist ratio. So this is obviously the ratio between your shoulders and your waist, and it's going to determine how aesthetic you are. This can come from either the physique that you build or your genetics, your hip bones, your clavicle length. It's going to be a combination of both. So it's kind of a controllable, but sometimes you will be limited by your genetics. So you can see a 1 to 2 shoulder to waist ratio is just ridiculous. This is unideal. This is unaesthetic. This is just gross, honestly. 1.3 and 1.4 you can see isn't really even that much better, because if you actually have this sort of measurement, you're pretty scrawny. Like you are actually pretty frail, and there's just no V-taper going on there at all. So having such a shit shoulder to waist ratio can really come from a couple of variables. It's either gonna be you have a massive gut and then your shoulders are just small, or it's gonna come from you being so skinny and having such a small clavicle bone that you have a normal waist, but your shoulders are just really, really narrow. And the big problem with this is you'll never really be seen like that masculine dominant man, and it's only gonna take you for you to walk with your girlfriend and some Chad to walk past you and you get absolutely mogged. Okay, from 1.4 to 1.5 up to 1.6, there is huge jumps. That's because 1.4 is pretty much like you haven't lifted, you're scrawny, you really have no muscle mass, or you have a gut. And then having a 1.5 or 1.6 shoulder to waist ratio is literally the ideal. In statistics, it shows that 1.6 is the most ideal shoulder to waist ratio, and this can be easily achieved with natural lifting. And we can see it pretty much continues to be high appeal from 9 all the way to 8, and then to something ridiculous like a 2 to 0 shoulder waist ratio, which is just fucking ridiculous. You're still like a 7, but it is getting kind of weird. Anything past this just kind of looks a bit alien. Right, so how do you work this out for yourself? Now, I'm gonna do this for me. So, I am 6 foot, so I'm here. I'm right here. Right now, I think I'm about 12.5 13% body fat. My FFMI is about 21, just over, and I have almost a 1.6 shoulder to waist ratio. But we can essentially like find a little happy medium here. And that is where I sit. What we say that is. It's like anywhere from a 7 to a 9. But this is only accounting for my physique. I will say my physique carries me. Your face card does account for a lot of it, and that's not included in this graph. So what was even the point of this? Well, it was just to provide some clarity. Like what sort of goals should you try to achieve, you know? The FFMI line shows that, you know, steroids might not be the best choice for you. And the body fat graph shows that you don't really need to get stage lean. Honestly, up here is just living a healthy, natural lifestyle than like lifting weights. But boys, if you're struggling to build this max appeal physique, to build this attractive physique where you actually get real world results from it, you can flick us a message on Instagram. We've opened up a few spots for our one-on-one coaching. So yeah, flick us a message on Instagram, or you can literally just go down on that first link and book a free consultation call. It's gonna be no pressure. We just talk one-on-one with you to figure out a game plan going forward. And if you somehow don't like the sounds of it for whatever reason, man, cool, you'll learn a thing or two and you can go about your day. And that sums up the video. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and we will see you in the next one.